Elvis was in the middle of Suspicious Minds when a teenage girl rushed the stage and grabbed his scarf. Security moved to stop her, but what Elvis did next, and what that girl did with the scarf, became one of the most powerful stories about the true meaning of generosity. It was November 14th, 1970, at the International Hotel in Las Vegas. Elvis was 3 songs into his midnight show, and the energy in the room was electric. He'd just started his iconic performance of Suspicious Minds, complete with the dramatic false endings that drove audiences wild. The crowd was on their feet, screaming, reaching toward the stage. This was peak Elvis, 1970 style, the white jumpsuit era, the karate moves, the raw power of a performer who'd reclaimed his throne after years of mediocre movies. As Elvis moved to the edge of the stage during an instrumental break, a blur of movement caught everyone's attention. A young girl, maybe 16 or 17, had broken through the security barrier and was running full speed toward the stage. Security guards immediately moved to intercept her, but she was fast and desperate. She made it to the stage before they could grab her. For a split second, everyone thought she was going to tackle Elvis, but she didn't. Instead, she reached up and grabbed the silk scarf hanging around his neck, yanking it off before anyone could stop her. The scarf, one of Elvis's signature performance accessories worth hundreds of dollars, came free in her hands. And then, before security could grab her, she did something that shocked everyone in the venue. She ran. Not back into the crowd, but toward the exit, clutching that scarf like her life depended on it. Security tackled her before she reached the door. The music had stopped. The band was confused. The audience was on their feet, some booing the girl, some laughing at the spectacle. Elvis stood on stage, watching the scene unfold, his microphone still in his hand. "Let her go," Elvis's voice cut through the chaos. The security guards looked at each other, confused. "Elvis, she stole your—" "I said let her go." Elvis's voice was firm but not angry. "Let her keep the scarf." The guards reluctantly released the girl. She stood there, trembling, still clutching the scarf, tears streaming down her face. She looked terrified, like she couldn't believe what she'd just done. Elvis walked to the edge of the stage and looked directly at her. "What's your name, honey?" The girl's voice was barely a whisper. "Angela. Angela Martinez." "Angela, why did you take my scarf?" What she said next silenced the entire venue. "Because my mother is dying, and I need money for her surgery." The audience went completely silent. This wasn't a fan grabbing a souvenir. This was desperation. Elvis's expression changed immediately. "Come here, Angela. Come back up on stage." Security helped the shaking teenager back onto the stage. She was wearing clothes that were clearly too small for her, probably hand-me-downs. Her shoes were worn through at the soles. Everything about her spoke of poverty and struggle. Elvis took her gently by the shoulders. "Tell me what's happening with your mother." Angela's story came out in broken, tearful sentences. Her mother, Rosa Martinez, had been diagnosed with a brain tumor 6 months earlier. They'd been told she needed surgery immediately, but they had no insurance. Rosa worked as a hotel maid. Angela's father had left years ago. There were 3 younger siblings at home. The surgery would cost $8,000, a fortune in 1970, especially for a family already living paycheck to paycheck. "I heard that Elvis's scarves sell for hundreds of dollars," Angela said, her voice shaking. "I thought if I could get one, I could sell it and at least pay for some of her surgery. I know it was wrong. I know I'm a thief. But I didn't know what else to do." The desperation in her voice was heartbreaking. She wasn't a fan hoping for an autograph or a souvenir. She was a daughter trying to save her mother's life. Elvis looked at the scarf still clutched in Angela's hands. Then he looked at Joe Esposito, his road manager, standing in the wings. "Joe, I need you to do something for me." "Anything, Elvis." "Find out where Angela's mother's being treated. Get the name of her doctor. And tomorrow morning, I want you to call the hospital and tell them that all of Mrs. Martinez's medical bills will be paid in full. Surgery, recovery, medications, everything. Send the bills to me." Angela's legs gave out. She would have collapsed if Elvis hadn't caught her. "What? No, I can't. You can't. Yes, I can, Elvis said firmly but kindly. And Angela, you keep that scarf, not to sell. Keep it to remember that when you were desperate and scared, you did something brave to try to save your mother. That's not stealing. That's love. The audience erupted in applause, but Elvis held up his hand for silence. But I want you to promise me something, Elvis continued, looking Angela directly in the eyes. When your mother is better, and she will be better, I want you to promise me that you'll find ways to help other people the way I'm helping you tonight. Can you do that? Angela nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Good, Elvis said, smiling gently. Now, do you know the words to "Can't Help Falling in Love"? Angela nodded again. Then you're going to help me finish this show. You're going to sing that song with me. And every time you look at that scarf, you're going to remember that sometimes the universe sends help from the most unexpected places. What followed was one of the most emotional performances in Elvis's career. He sang "Can't Help Falling in Love" with Angela standing beside him on stage, still clutching his scarf, crying through every word. The audience wasn't just watching a performance, they were witnessing an act of pure compassion. Many of them were crying too. After the song ended, Elvis walked Angela off stage himself and spent 20 minutes backstage talking to her about her family, her mother, her dreams for the future. I grew up poor, Angela, Elvis told her quietly. I know what it's like to be desperate. I know what it's like to feel like you have to do something, anything, to help your family survive. You don't need to be ashamed of what you did tonight. You should be proud that you love your mother enough to risk everything for her. Before Angela left, Elvis gave her $500 in cash for groceries and bills while your mother recovers, and his personal phone number at Graceland. If you need anything else, you call. Understand? Angela left the International Hotel that night with Elvis's scarf, $500 in cash, and the promise that her mother's life would be saved. True to his word, Elvis paid every penny of Rosa Martinez's medical bills. The surgery was successful. Rosa recovered fully, and the Martinez family's life was transformed. But the story doesn't end there. It gets more complicated, more beautiful, and more meaningful than anyone could have imagined. Angela Martinez kept that scarf for the next 35 years. She framed it and hung it on her bedroom wall. Every morning when she woke up, she looked at it and remembered the promise she'd made to Elvis. She kept that promise. Angela went to nursing school, working multiple jobs to pay for her education. She became a registered nurse, then a nurse practitioner. She specialized in working with uninsured families who couldn't afford medical care. She married, had 2 children, and always told them the story of the scarf, of Elvis, of the night their grandmother's life was saved by an act of pure generosity. Rosa Martinez lived until 2003. 33 years after the surgery that Elvis paid for. She got to see her daughter become a nurse, got to meet her grandchildren, got to live a full life that should have ended in 1970. And every year, on November 14th, Angela and her mother would watch videos of Elvis concerts and talk about the night that changed everything. When Rosa passed away in 2003, Angela was devastated. But she took comfort in knowing that her mother had lived decades longer than the doctors had predicted, all because of Elvis's kindness. Then, in 2005, something happened that brought everything full circle. Angela was browsing online when she saw an advertisement for an upcoming Elvis memorabilia auction. Collectors were gathering to bid on rare items from Elvis's career. She looked through the catalog out of curiosity, not really interested in buying anything. Then she saw it. Lot number 47. Elvis Presley's performance scarf from 1970 Las Vegas show. The description read, "Silk scarf worn by Elvis during his November 14, 1970 midnight show at the International Hotel. Authenticated. Rare item from the peak of Elvis's Vegas era." Angela's heart stopped. She looked at the photograph in the catalog, then ran to her bedroom to look at the scarf hanging on her wall. It was gone. Her scarf, the one Elvis had given her, the one she'd kept safe for 35 years, was missing from its frame. Angela's mind raced. Who could have taken it? Then she remembered. 6 months earlier, her house had been broken into while the family was on vacation. The police report had listed some missing jewelry and electronics, but Angela hadn't thought to check the scarf. It had seemed so secure in its frame. Now it was being sold at auction, probably by whoever had stolen it from her home, likely having no idea what it really meant. Angela looked at the estimated auction price, $5,000 to $7,000. She looked at her bank account. She and her husband had been saving for years to buy a bigger house. They had $8,500 saved. Angela made a decision. She called her husband, explained the situation, and asked him something she'd never asked before. "Can I use our savings? I know it's for the house, but this scarf, it's not just a souvenir. It's the reason my mother lived. It's the reason I became a nurse. It's the reason we have the life we have." Her husband, who'd heard the story of the scarf 1,000 times over their 20 years of marriage, didn't hesitate. Buy it back. 3 days later, Angela sat in an auction house in Los Angeles, surrounded by Elvis collectors and memorabilia dealers. She'd never been to an auction before. She was nervous and out of place. When lot number 47 came up, the bidding started at $3,000. It quickly climbed to $5,000, then $6,000. Angela kept raising her paddle, her heart pounding. At $7,500, most of the other bidders dropped out. It was down to Angela and one other collector, a man in an expensive suit who clearly had money to spare. The man bid $8,000. Angela raised her paddle one last time. $8,500. The auctioneer looked around the room. "I have $8,500. Do I hear $9,000? The man in the suit looked at the scarf, then at Angela. Something in her expression, the desperation, the determination, made him pause. He shook his head and lowered his paddle. Sold to paddle number 47 for $8,500. Angela had spent every penny of her savings to buy back the scarf that Elvis had given her 35 years ago. But Angela did something that surprised everyone who knew her. Instead of taking the scarf home, instead of framing it again and keeping it safe, she contacted Graceland. She wrote a letter to the Elvis Presley estate explaining the entire story, the night in 1970, her mother's surgery, Elvis's generosity, the theft, the auction, everything. And then she did something extraordinary. She donated the scarf to Graceland permanently, with a request that it be displayed with a placard telling the full story. Her letter, which is now displayed next to the scarf in the Graceland Museum, reads, "This scarf represents the best of what Elvis Presley was. Not the fame, not the wealth, not the performances, but the kindness, the generosity, the willingness to help a desperate girl save her mother's life. I kept this scarf for 35 years. It hung on my wall as a daily reminder of what compassion looks like. It inspired me to become a nurse. It taught me that the greatest gift we can give is helping others in their moments of desperation. But it doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to everyone who needs to be reminded that kindness changes lives, that generosity creates ripples that spread far beyond the original act. My mother lived for 33 years after Elvis saved her life. I became a nurse and have helped thousands of patients because of the example he set. My children grew up learning that what we give away is more valuable than what we keep. This scarf saved my mother's life in 1970. Now I hope it will inspire others to do the same for people in their lives. Thank you, Elvis, for teaching me that what we give away always comes back to us in ways we never expect." The letter was signed, Angela Martinez Rivera, November 2005. Today, the scarf hangs in Graceland's exhibit on Elvis's charitable work, which most people don't even know about because Elvis insisted on keeping most of his generosity private. The placard next to the scarf tells Angela's story in full. It's become one of the most photographed and shared exhibits in Graceland, not because of the scarf itself, but because of what it represents. Thousands of visitors every year read Angela's story and are moved to tears. Many of them leave comments in the guest book about how the story inspired them to help others. Angela Martinez Rivera continued working as a nurse until her retirement in 2015. Over her career, she helped establish 3 free clinics for uninsured families in Las Vegas. She named one of them the Rosa Martinez Memorial Clinic, after her mother, and another the Elvis Presley Free Healthcare Center. She always tells people that she's not doing charity work. She's keeping a promise she made to Elvis on a Las Vegas stage when she was 16 years old. Elvis taught me that when someone helps you, you don't pay them back, Angela said in an interview for the Graceland exhibit. You pay it forward. You help the next person who's desperate, who's scared, who's out of options. That's how you honor someone's generosity. The story of the stolen scarf reminds us of something profound about generosity. Real generosity isn't about the gift itself. It's about the transformation that gift creates, the ripple effects that spread out from one act of kindness. Elvis didn't just give Angela a scarf. He gave her mother 33 more years of life. He gave Angela the inspiration to become a nurse. He gave her children the example of compassion. He gave thousands of patients access to free health care through the clinics Angela established. One scarf, one moment, one decision to help instead of judge. And the ripples are still spreading. Angela's children both went into helping professions. Her daughter is a social worker. Her son is a pediatrician who volunteers at free clinics. They both cite their mother's story about Elvis as the reason they chose careers in service. Even the man who stole the scarf, though he never knew it, played a role in this story. By taking it, by selling it to the auction house, he set in motion a series of events that led to the scarf finding its permanent home at Graceland, where millions of people can see it and be inspired by its story. Sometimes I wonder, Angela said, what would have happened if I hadn't rushed that stage? If I'd been too scared? If security had stopped me before I got the scarf? Would my mother have died? Would I have become a nurse? Would all these clinics exist? She paused, looking at the scarf hanging in its case at Graceland. But then I remember what Elvis said to me that night. The universe sends help from the most unexpected places. Maybe it was all meant to happen exactly the way it did. The story of the stolen scarf teaches us that what we give away never really leaves us. It transforms. It grows. It comes back in ways we never imagined. Elvis gave away a scarf worth a few $100s. In return, he saved a life, inspired a career, created free healthcare clinics, and left a story that continues to inspire people decades after his death. That's not a trade. That's a miracle. And it all started with a desperate teenage girl, a silk scarf, and a man who chose compassion over judgment. Today, when Angela visits Graceland, she stands in front of that display case and cries, not because she misses owning the scarf, but because she sees what it's become, a symbol, a reminder, a promise kept. Elvis made me promise to help others, she says to anyone who'll listen. I spent 35 years trying to keep that promise, but donating this scarf to Graceland, that was the best way I could think of to honor what he did for me. Now, everyone who sees it can be inspired to help someone else. The stolen scarf wasn't stolen after all. It was a gift that kept giving, kept transforming, kept creating ripples of kindness that will never stop spreading. And somewhere, you have to believe, Elvis is smiling. Because that's exactly what he would have wanted. If this powerful story of generosity, transformation, and paying it forward moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that what we give away comes back to us in unexpected ways. Have you ever been helped by a stranger's kindness? How did you pay it forward? Let us know in the comments, and hit that notification bell for more incredible true stories about the ripple effects of compassion